My mother declared that Uncle Edgar would be moving into my guest house on a Tuesday morning over coffee she hadn't offered to share. She didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. I'm Talia, and I've spent 29 years being told what to do by my mother, Margaret. Usually I nod and comply. It's easier that way. But this time was different. The guest house isn't available, I said quietly, stirring my own coffee that I'd brought from home. The familiar scent of vanilla creamer did nothing to calm my racing heart. She finally looked up, her perfectly manicured eyebrows arching. Don't be difficult, Talia. Your uncle needs a place to stay, and that house has been sitting there practically empty since Grandma died. You barely use it. I bit my tongue, remembering all the nights I'd spent there, finding peace in the small sanctuary my grandmother had given me. The walls still held echoes of her voice, her laugh, the way she'd squeeze my hand and tell me I was stronger than I knew. I live there, I said, full-time, for the past 6 years. Oh, please, my mother waved her hand dismissively. You can move back home. Your old room is still available, though Sophie's using it for storage right now. The mention of my younger sister made my jaw clench. Sophie, the golden child, who'd gotten a brand new car for her 16th birthday while I got a lecture about being grateful for hand-me-downs. Edgar's going through a rough patch, my mother continued, her voice taking on that familiar guilt-inducing tone. The divorce hit him hard, and after losing his job, well, family helps family, you understand. A car door slammed outside. Through the kitchen window, I watched my uncle's beat-up Chrysler pull into the driveway, trailing oil spots on the concrete, right on cue. I gave him your spare key, my mother said, standing up. He'll start moving in today. I expect you to help him settle in. My hands trembled slightly as I set down my coffee cup. You gave him my key? Don't make this difficult, Talia. It's what your grandmother would have wanted. I almost laughed at that. If she only knew what Grandma Olivia had actually wanted. The memory of that day flooded back. Grandma sitting in her favourite armchair, holding my hand, her voice barely above a whisper. This is your peace, Talia. I want you to always have it. The front door opened, and Edgar's booming voice filled the house. Margaret, where's my favourite sister? He appeared in the doorway, all fake charm and desperate energy. His shirt was wrinkled and his eyes had that familiar hungry look they got when he was about to ask for something. There's my niece. He moved to hug me, but I stepped back. Uncle Edgar, I said flatly. Now don't look so glum, he chuckled. We're going to be neighbours, just like old times, remember? When I used to stay in the guest house and sneak you candy, what I remembered was him stealing Grandma's jewellery while she was in the hospital. What I remembered was him borrowing her car and returning it with an empty tank. What I remembered was her crying when she discovered her savings account had been drained. I've got some boxes in the car, he said, jingling my spare key. Be a dear and help me unload. My mother beamed at him, then shot me a warning look. Talia will help, won't you, sweetheart? I stood up slowly, smoothing down my shirt. 6 years of waiting, of careful planning, of quiet documentation. 6 years of playing the good daughter while making sure every legal document was in order. 6 years of watching them all underestimate me, just like they always had. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I need to make a call first. To whom? My mother asked sharply. My lawyer. The room went silent. Edgar's key jingling stopped. My mother's smile froze. Your lawyer? She repeated. Yes, I said, my voice steady for the first time that morning. You see, there's something we need to discuss about the ownership of that guest house. Edgar laughed nervously. Come on now, don't be dramatic. It's family property. I looked him straight in the eye as I pressed the call button. No, Uncle Edgar, it's my property and you're not moving in. My mother's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Talia, what are you talking about? I held up my hand as the phone rang, watching their faces. 6 years of waiting, and finally the moment had arrived. Hello, Riley. Yes, they're here now. Could you bring over those documents we discussed? Time to end this charade. The 30 minutes it took Riley to arrive felt like hours. My mother paced the kitchen, her heels clicking against the tile floor while Uncle Edgar slumped in a chair, trying to look unbothered, but checking his phone every few seconds. "This is ridiculous," my mother muttered for the third time. "Your grandmother left everything to be managed by the family. I have the paperwork." "The paperwork you never actually read," I interrupted, "because dealing with boring details was beneath you." She stopped pacing. "What's that supposed to mean?" The doorbell rang before I could answer. Riley stood there in her crisp blazer, leather briefcase in hand. 6 years ago, she'd been my roommate in law school before I dropped out. Now she was the kind of lawyer who made people nervous just by walking into a room. "Hello, Talia," she said professionally, then nodded to my mother and uncle. "Mrs. Newman, Mr. Newman." "Who exactly are you?" my mother demanded. "Riley Watson, representing Ms. Talia Newman in matters concerning the property at 1542 Maple Street, commonly known as the Guest House." Uncle Edgar stood up. "Listen, there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Riley said, opening her briefcase. "Just facts that some parties weren't aware of. Shall we sit?" My mother's face reddened. "I don't appreciate this ambush." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly how I felt this morning when you announced someone else was moving into my house." Riley spread documents across the kitchen table. 6 years ago, before her death, Olivia Newman had this property legally separated from the main estate. She then transferred full ownership to Talia through a private deed. "That's impossible," my mother snapped. "I handled all of Mum's affairs." "No," I corrected her. "You delegated all of Mum's affairs to me, remember? You were too busy planning Sophie's graduation party." Uncle Edgar leaned forward, squinting at the papers. "These could be fake." "The county recorder's office disagrees," Riley said smoothly, sliding forward another document. "As does the notary public, the land survey office, and Mrs. Olivia Newman herself in this video deposition." My mother's face went pale. "Video?" I pulled out my tablet and pressed play. Grandma Olivia's face filled the screen, her silver hair neatly styled, her blue eyes sharp and clear. "I, Olivia Newman, being of sound mind, declare this property at 1542 Maple Street to be transferred in full to my granddaughter, Talia Newman." Uncle Edgar's chair scraped back. "Turn it off." But Grandma's voice continued. "I make this decision with full awareness of my family's likely objections. This house represents my personal property, purchased with my teaching pension, separate from the family estate. I choose Talia as its sole owner because she alone has shown true care for both the property and for me in my final years." My mother's hands shook as she reached for the papers. "Why didn't she tell me?" "She tried," I said quietly. "Multiple times. You always change the subject." "But Edgar needs to find his own place," I cut in. "Just like he needed to find his own money instead of draining Grandma's savings account." Uncle Edgar's face turned red. "That's a lie." "Bank statements don't lie," Riley interjected, producing another folder. "Would you like to discuss those too?" He grabbed his keys from the table. "This is Bull's language," my mother snapped automatically, then turned to me. "Talia, you can't do this. He's family." "Family?" I laughed. "Was it family when he sold Grandma's antique jewellery while she was in the hospital? Was it family when you told me I was being dramatic for reporting it? I never—" "Save it," I said, standing up. "The house is mine. Legally, formally, and permanently mine. Edgar needs to leave. Now." "You'll regret this," he growled, heading for the door. "No," I said. "I really won't." After they left, Riley squeezed my shoulder. "You okay?" I nodded, gathering the documents with shaking hands. Through the window, I watched my mother's car pull away, Uncle Edgar's Chrysler following close behind. "They'll be back," Riley warned. "I know." I tucked the papers into my bag. But I've got something they don't. What's that? Proof, time, and Grandma's blessing. I headed for the door, then paused. Want to see their faces when they realise I've already changed the locks? Riley grinned. Lead the way. As we walked to the guest house, I heard footsteps on the porch. My mother stood there, key extended, face tight with anger. We need to talk, she said. I squared my shoulders. 6 years of preparation had led to this moment. Yes, I agreed. We really do. That key won't work, I said, watching my mother jiggle the handle. I had the locks changed last week. She spun around, face flushed. You planned this, all of it. Yes. How dare you? She stepped toward me, finger pointed. After everything this family has done for you. Done for me? I unlocked the door with my new key. Please, elaborate. Riley stayed close behind me as we entered. The guest house smelled like fresh coffee and the lavender candles Grandma always loved. Everything was exactly as I kept it. Clean, organised, peaceful. Until now. Your uncle is going through a difficult time, my mother started. He's been going through difficult times for 20 years, I interrupted. And somehow those difficulties always end up being someone else's problem. A car door slammed outside. Sophie burst in, designer purse swinging. Mom just called me. What the hell, Talia? Perfect timing, I said. Family meeting? This isn't funny, Sophie snapped. Uncle Edgar needs a job, I suggested. Personal accountability, therapy. My mother sank onto the couch. Grandma's couch, like she owned it. You're being cruel. No, I said, pulling out my phone. This is cruel. I played the video I'd taken 6 years ago. Grandma lying in her hospital bed, tears streaming down her face as she discovered her jewellery missing. Her voice, weak but clear. Edgar promised he'd return them. He promised. Sophie shifted uncomfortably. That was ages ago. 2 months before she died, I corrected. While you were all too busy to visit, I was there, recording everything. Is that why she left you the house? My mother demanded. Because you manipulated her. Riley cleared her throat. I have statements from the hospice staff, Mrs. Newman. They all witnessed your mother's mental clarity and her explicit wishes. This isn't legal, my mother insisted. Actually, Riley said, it's ironclad. Would you like to see the property survey again, the deed transfer, the video deposition, or perhaps the bank statements showing Mr. Edgar's systematic withdrawal of your mother's savings? A heavy knock at the door made us all jump. Uncle Edgar barged in, waving papers. I called my lawyer. He says, Your lawyer can call me directly, Riley interrupted, handing him her card. Though I should warn you, challenging this will only make public everything else we've documented. He crumpled the card. You little snake. You sat there for years planning this. Yes, I said simply. I did, just like you sat there for years planning how to drain Grandma's accounts. That's different. She needed heart medication, I cut in, but she couldn't afford it after you emptied her emergency fund. Sophie gasped. What? Oh, you didn't know? I turned to my sister. Ask Mom. She covered it up, wrote it off as a banking error rather than admit her precious brother was stealing from our dying grandmother. My mother stood up sharply. That's enough. No, it's not, I said, my voice rising. For years, I watched you all take and take. You treated Grandma's house like a hotel, her savings like a personal ATM, and when she needed you most, you were too busy with your own lives to notice she was fading. We loved her, Sophie whispered. Love isn't enough, I said. She needed protection. From him, I pointed at Uncle Edgar. And from you, I looked at my mother, and she trusted me to provide it. By stealing her property, Edgar snarled. By honouring her wishes, I corrected. This house was her refuge. Now it's mine, and none of you are welcome here. My mother's face hardened. You'll regret this. Family is all we have. No, I said. Family is what we choose, and I choose to honour Grandma's choice. This isn't over, Edgar threatened, heading for the door. Actually, it is, Riley said. Any further harassment will result in legal action. And trust me, you don't want those documents becoming public record. They left one by one, Edgar first, slamming the door. Sophie next, unable to meet my eyes. My mother last, pausing at the threshold. You waited for this, she said quietly. You planned this. Yes, I replied, for 6 years. After they were gone, Riley helped me double-check the locks. Through the window, I watched their cars pull away, leaving oil stains on my driveway. You okay? Riley asked. I touched the wall where Grandma's favourite photo hung, the two of us in her garden, both smiling. I will be. They might try something else, she warned. Let them try, I said. I learned from the best how to play the long game. Outside, the evening sun cast long shadows across my porch, just like Grandma wanted. The calls started at dawn. Aunt Patricia first, her voice shrill with righteous anger. How could you do this to your own uncle? Your grandmother would be ashamed. I let it go to voicemail. Then came Cousin Mark. You've torn this family apart? Uncle David, your mother is devastated. Each message more dramatic than the last. By noon, my phone had 37 missed calls and 62 text messages. I turned it off and went to water Grandma's roses. Quite the show yesterday, called a voice from next door. Lena, our elderly neighbour, stood at the fence in her gardening hat. She'd lived next door for 40 years and had seen everything. You heard? Honey, the whole street heard, she smiled. About time, if you ask me. I adjusted the sprinkler. Everyone thinks I'm the villain. Everyone thought your grandmother was cruel too, when she finally stood up to your grandfather back in 85. Lena leaned on the fence. Truth's just calmer with better manners. You did right. A car pulled up to the main house, Sophie's red convertible. She got out, clutching a stack of papers. Incoming, Lena muttered. Want me to call the police? Not yet, I said, turning off the water. Sophie marched across the lawn, her designer heels sinking into the grass. Look what you've done! She thrust a phone in my face. It showed her latest Instagram post, already flooded with comments. My sister's violent takeover of family property, I read aloud. Interesting choice of words. Mum's a wreck, Sophie snapped. Uncle Edgar had to sleep in his car. He has money for a hotel, I said. Trust me, I've seen the bank statements. You're obsessed. All these years, collecting evidence like some crazy person. All these years, watching you all take advantage of a dying woman. Sophie flinched. That's not fair. I loved Grandma. You loved her credit card, I corrected. The one you borrowed to buy that convertible you're driving. She said I could. She was on morphine, Sophie. She couldn't even sign her name. My sister's face crumpled. Why are you being so mean? Mean, I laughed. Mean is watching your grandmother cry because she can't afford her medicine. Mean is ignoring her calls because you're too busy to visit. Mean is letting Uncle Edgar steal her blind while pretending everything's fine. I didn't know about that, she whispered. You didn't want to know. A notification pinged on her phone, another comment on her post. She glanced at it, then at me. Everyone's saying horrible things about you. Let them. The truth has documentation. Mum's talking about legal action. Good luck with that. I turned back to the roses. Riley's already filed restraining orders against Uncle Edgar. One wrong move and everything goes public. Including the bank records. Everything. Sophie's phone pinged again. This time her face went pale. Wade just commented. My stomach lurched. Wade, my ex-boyfriend who dumped me for being too boring 2 years ago. What did he say? He wants to know if you're okay. Says he's been thinking about you. Of course he had. Now that I had property and power, suddenly I was interesting again. Tell him to keep thinking, I said. From a distance, Sophie tucked her phone away. This isn't over, you know. Mum won't let it go. I know. That's why I have security cameras installed. I pointed to the discrete devices under the eaves. And a police report filed, just in case. You really did think of everything. I learned from the best. You all taught me exactly how cruel family can be. She turned to leave, then paused. Did she ever say anything about me? At the end. The truth caught in my throat. Those final days when Grandma would look at old photos and whisper about regrets, about enabling bad behaviour, about loving too much and protecting too little. She loved you, I said finally, but she was disappointed. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Yeah, I guess she had reason to be. After she left, Lena called over the fence again. You okay, honey? I looked at the roses, their petals bright against the dark soil. Grandma's roses, my roses now. No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a photo of my front door with a message. You think you won, but you'll regret everything. I forwarded it to Riley, then went inside to check the security cameras. The war wasn't over, but this time I was ready for battle. Wade's message arrived 3 days later. Coffee, for old time's sake. I stared at my phone, remembering how he'd ended things. You're just so predictable, he'd said. Always playing it safe, always doing what your family wants. I typed back, Starbucks, 2 p.m. Don't be late. He was, of course. 15 minutes late, sliding into the seat across from me with that practiced smile that used to make my heart skip. You look good, he said, really good. Amazing what standing up for yourself can do for your complexion. He laughed too loudly. I saw Sophie's post. Pretty intense stuff. Is that why you're here? For drama updates. Can't I just want to see you? He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. 2 years of silence, and now you're interested. What a coincidence. His smile faltered. I've been thinking about us, about mistakes I made. You mean like dating my cousin behind my back? He choked on his coffee. How did you... Amanda told me last year at the family reunion, right after you dumped her too. Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. Check your mailbox, Snake. Everything okay? Wade asked, leaning forward. Fine. I stood up. This was a mistake. Talia, wait. You know what's funny? I turned back. You said I was predictable, boring, but you're exactly what I expected. I drove home quickly, heart pounding. The mailbox was stuffed with papers, printouts of Sophie's social media posts, each one covered in red marker, thief and traitor scrawled across my face. Charming display, said a voice. Lena stood on her porch, watering can in hand. Your uncle's been driving by every few hours, taking pictures. Of course he has. I gathered the papers. Did you see who left these? No, but I got it on camera. She pointed to her doorbell camera. Already sent the footage to that lawyer friend of yours. My phone rang. Riley. Hey, we need to talk. Your uncle's lawyer just filed something. I'll be right there. I turned to Lena. Thank you for watching out for me. Someone should, she said simply. Your grandmother would be proud. At Riley's office, the news wasn't good. He's challenging the deed transfer, she explained. Claims Olivia was mentally incompetent when she signed. That's ridiculous. We have the hospice records. I know, but it means court. Testimony. Are you ready for that? I thought of Grandma's voice, preserved in a voicemail I'd never deleted. After another of Edgar's loans, she'd called me crying. One moment, I said to Riley, pulling out my phone. I played the message on speaker. Talia, baby, I need to tell you something. They'll try to take it from you. When they do, don't you budge. I'm leaving you this house because you're the only one who sees them for what they are. The only one strong enough to stand up to them. Don't let them bully you like they bullied me. I love you, sweetheart. Stay strong. Riley's eyes widened. When was this? 2 weeks before she died, when she was supposedly incompetent. This changes everything." She started typing. "With this and the hospice records, we can file for summary judgment. No trial needed." My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "Hope you're ready for war." "They're not going to stop," I said. "No," Riley agreed, "but neither are we." I drove home slowly, watching for Edgar's car. The guest house looked peaceful in the afternoon light. Inside, everything was exactly as Grandma had left it. Her quilts, her photos, her collection of antique teacups that Edgar had tried to sell. A knock at the door made me jump. Sophie stood there, mascara streaked down her face. "I found something," she said, holding out a photo album. "Look." Inside were pictures of us as kids. Sophie and me in matching dresses, both of us with Grandma in her garden. Happy times before money and greed poisoned everything. "I miss her," Sophie whispered. "Me too." "Did she—" Sophie wiped her eyes. "Did she ever say anything nice about me?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the designer clothes and carefully curated social media presence, I saw what Grandma had seen. A lost girl desperate for approval. "She said you had a good heart," I answered truthfully, "when you chose to use it." Sophie nodded slowly. "You really are her favourite, and now you'll be alone with that forever." She left before I could respond, her words echoing in the empty house. On my phone, another message waited. "Family meeting tomorrow. Be ready." I touched Grandma's teacups, feeling their delicate strength. "I'm ready," I whispered. "I've always been ready." The county records office smelled like old paper and stale coffee. I'd spent my lunch break here every day for a week, digging through property records, following a hunch I couldn't shake. "Back again?" The clerk Martha smiled knowingly. "Found anything interesting?" "Maybe." I spread out the documents. "See these signatures from when Uncle Edgar helped manage Grandma's properties?" Martha adjusted her glasses. "The ones from 2015, something's off about those." "Exactly." I pulled out my phone, showing her photos of Grandma's genuine signature. "Look at the difference." "Oh, honey," Martha's eyes widened. "That's not just off, that's forgery." My hands shook as I made copies. 3 properties sold between 2014 and 2015, all while Grandma was recovering from her first stroke. All signed over to shell companies that traced back to Edgar's old business partner. My phone buzzed. "Riley." "Where are you? Your mother's here at my office." "On my way. And Riley, I found something big." Mum sat rigid in Riley's office, her perfect posture betraying her anxiety. "This has gone far enough," she announced as I walked in. "I agree." I dropped the folder of records on the desk. "Let's talk about Edgar's creative accounting." "What? The riverside property, the lake house, the downtown apartment? Ring any bells?" Her face paled. "Those were legitimate sales, with forged signatures." I spread out the documents. "While Grandma was in the hospital?" "You don't understand. Actually, I do. Edgar needed money. Again. So he forged Grandma's signature, sold her properties to his friends' companies at half their value, and probably got kickbacks. That's ridiculous. Is it?" I pulled out more papers. "Because I have the original deeds, the sales records, and proof that Grandma was physically incapable of signing anything during those months." Riley leaned forward. "Mrs. Newman, this is serious. We're talking about federal fraud." My mother's hands trembled. "Edgar said she agreed. He said she needed the money for medical bills." "Medical bills that he created by stealing her savings," I said. "Did you ever actually ask her? She was sick. She was betrayed. By him, by you, by everyone who looked the other way. I was protecting the family." "No," I stood up. "You were protecting him, like always." My mother buried her face in her hands. "What do you want?" "I want you to stop fighting me on the guest house, stop the social media attacks, stop the harassment." "Or what?" All these records go to the FBI's fraud division. I'm sure they'd love to hear about Edgar's creative financing. She looked up sharply. You'd send your own uncle to prison. You mean like you let him send Grandma to a cheaper nursing home because he drained her accounts? Silence filled the room. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice barely audible. He said he'd pay it back. Did he? No. She straightened her jacket. None of this leaves this room. I'll talk to Edgar. And Sophie, the posts will stop. Today. After she left, Riley whistled low. That was intense. It's not over, I said. They'll try something else. My phone chimed. A text from Sophie. OMG, Mom just called Edgar. He's freaking out. What did you do? Then another message from an unknown number. You think you're smart? Watch your back. Edgar? Riley asked, reading over my shoulder. Probably. He's got the most to lose. Want me to file for a restraining order? Not yet. I gathered the documents. Let's keep this ace up our sleeve. Driving home, I passed Edgar's car parked near the guest house. He sat inside, staring at my front door, phone pressed to his ear. I parked in the driveway and walked straight to his car. He rolled down the window, face red with anger. You little... 3 properties, I interrupted. 3 forged signatures. Want to guess how many years that's worth? He gripped the steering wheel. You're bluffing. Try me. Keep pushing and these files go public, all of them. Margaret won't let you. Mom can't stop me. Not anymore. His phone buzzed. Probably my mother calling again. We stared at each other through the window, years of resentment crackling between us. Leave, I said quietly. Don't come back. He started his car, engine growling. This isn't over. Yes, it is, unless you want the FBI involved. I watched him drive away, tires squealing. Inside the house, I played Grandma's voicemail again. Don't let them bully you like they bullied me. I won't, I whispered to her memory. I promise. My phone lit up with a calendar reminder, court hearing tomorrow, 9 a.m. Edgar's lawyer's challenge to the deed. Game on. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain. Edgar and his lawyer waited by the entrance, both in ill-fitting suits. My mother stood apart from them, scrolling through her phone like this was just another inconvenient appointment. Ready? Riley asked, adjusting her briefcase. Born ready. Inside, the hearing room felt smaller than I expected. Edgar's lawyer, a nervous man named Peters, shuffled his papers while the judge reviewed our files. Your Honour, Peters began, we contest the validity of this deed transfer on grounds of mental incompetency. Objection, Riley stood. We have extensive medical documentation proving Mrs. Olivia Newman's mental clarity during this period. Beyond medical records, Peters continued, we question the suspicious timing and secretive nature of this transfer. There was nothing suspicious about it, I said clearly. Grandma made her wishes known, multiple times. The judge peered over his glasses. Do you have evidence of these wishes? Yes, Your Honour. Riley approached with a laptop. We have video testimony. My mother's head snapped up. Edgar shifted in his seat. The video played. Grandma sitting in her favourite chair looking directly at the camera. I'm recording this because I know what's coming. My son-in-law tried to challenge my will once before, and my own brother contested my inheritance. Now I'm protecting what's mine. Edgar's lawyer started to speak, but the judge held up his hand. Grandma continued, This guest house was bought with my teaching pension, my money, not family money. I'm giving it to Talia because she's the only one who sees the truth, the only one who tried to stop the stealing, the manipulation, the lies. My mother's face went white. I'm of sound mind. Grandma's voice grew stronger. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know they'll try to fight it. That's why I'm leaving this video. That's why I had 3 doctors certify my competency. That's why I'm doing this now, while I still can. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Your Honour, Peters tried again, regardless of mental state, This transfer was done without family knowledge, because the family was the threat, Riley interrupted, as evidenced by these bank records showing systematic theft from Mrs. Newman's accounts. She produced the documents I'd found. Additionally, we have evidence of multiple fraudulent property transfers orchestrated by the plaintiff, Mr. Edgar Newman, during this same period. Edgar stood up suddenly. This is irrelevant. Sit down, Mr. Newman, the judge ordered. Ms. Watson, continue. The guest house transfer was legal, documented and witnessed. The plaintiff's challenge is not only baseless but appears to be part of a pattern of financial exploitation. That's a lie, Edgar shouted. Mr. Newman, the judge warned, one more outburst and you'll be removed. Peters whispered urgently to Edgar, who sank back into his chair, face red. Having reviewed all submitted evidence, the judge said, I find no basis for this challenge. The deed transfer stands. Case dismissed. Edgar stormed out before the judge finished speaking. My mother stayed seated, staring at her hands. Mum! I approached her slowly. All this time, she whispered, you were protecting her. Someone had to. I should have, she trailed off, then stood abruptly. I need to go. Outside, Riley hugged me. Congratulations, it's really over. Is it? Legally? Yes. Emotionally? She shrugged. That's up to you. I watched my mother walk to her car alone. No Edgar in sight. No Sophie. Just a woman realizing how much she'd chosen not to see. Ms. Newman, a court clerk hurried over. This was in with your grandmother's filed documents. It's marked personal. The envelope was old, Grandma's handwriting shaky but clear. For Talia, after the fight. Inside was a single photo and a note. The photo showed Grandma and me on the guest house porch, both laughing at something long forgotten. The note read, My dearest Talia, if you're reading this, you've done what I never could, stood your ground. The house is yours now, truly and finally. Use it well. Fill it with the love and strength they tried to take from us both. They'll call you cruel, selfish, wrong. But standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. I'm so proud of you, my brave girl. All my love, Grandma. A shadow fell across the paper. Sophie stood there, mascara perfect this time. Is it true? She asked. About Edgar stealing? Yes. And Mom knew. She chose not to know. There's a difference. Sophie nodded slowly. The house. It was always meant for you, wasn't it? Yes. You'll be alone there. I'll be free there, I corrected. There's a difference in that too. She turned to leave, then paused. Take care of her roses, okay? I always have. I watched my sister walk away, her heels clicking on the wet pavement. In my hand, Grandma's photo caught the morning light. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. Finally, completely, the house was mine. The autumn wind scattered leaves across my porch as I pruned Grandma's roses. They'd bloomed late this year, defiant splashes of red against the cooling air. Mail's here, Lena called from her yard. Want me to grab yours? Please. I'd given her a spare key to my mailbox after the harassment stopped. Old habits die hard. She shuffled through the envelopes. Bill, advertisement. Oh, something from your mother. My hands stilled on the rosebush. Mom hadn't contacted me since the courthouse. 3 weeks of silence. Want me to toss it? No. I wiped my hands on my jeans. I'll take it. The envelope was heavy, expensive stationery. Inside was a key, the old one to the guest house, and a letter. Talia, I found this in Edgar's things. He's gone. Moved to Florida without telling anyone. Sophie tracked him through social media. He's working at a car dealership, claiming he's starting fresh. I've been thinking about what your grandmother said in that video, about seeing the truth. I didn't want to see it. It was easier to believe Edgar's excuses, to dismiss your concerns, to pretend everything was fine. I failed her. I failed you. The house was always meant for you. You were always meant for more than we allowed you to be. I'm sorry, Mum. My phone buzzed. A text from Wade. Miss you, coffee sometime. Delete. Another text came through from Sophie. Mum showed me the bank records. All of them. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I started typing, deleted it, started again. I know. Can we talk? Actually talk? The roses needed finishing. The gutters needed cleaning. The porch needed sweeping. All the little tasks of home ownership that Grandma had taught me to love. Not yet, I replied, but maybe soon. Lena appeared at the fence again. Everything okay? Getting there. I showed her the letter. Mum apologised. Miracles never cease, she smiled. Your grandmother would be proud, you know, not just of the house, of you. Standing tall, like her roses, I said, touching a bloom. Beautiful, but thorny. Speaking of thorny, Lena nodded toward the street. A familiar car was approaching, my mother's. She parked but didn't get out immediately, just sat there staring at the guest house like she was seeing it for the first time. Finally she stepped out, carrying a box. Hi. Hi. I found these, she said, setting the box down. Photos, documents, things your grandmother kept. I thought you should have them. I opened the box. On top was a photograph I'd never seen. Grandma as a young woman, standing proud in front of a classroom, her first year teaching. She was stronger than any of us, Mom said quietly. Like you. You could have been strong too, I replied. You could have stopped him. I know, she touched one of the roses gently. Is it too late to try? The wind picked up, sending more leaves dancing across the yard. Somewhere in the distance, a wind chime rang, the one Grandma had hung years ago. That depends, I said. Are you ready to see the truth? All of it? Yes. She met my eyes. Even the parts that hurt. I picked up my gardening shears. Want to learn how to prune roses? She stared at the shears, then at me. Understanding flickered across her face. This wasn't just about flowers. Yes, she said, show me. I demonstrated the technique Grandma had taught me. You have to be careful, but firm. Cut at an angle, make clean breaks. Mum's hands shook slightly as she tried. Like this? Almost. I adjusted her grip. You have to mean it. Hesitation only makes it messier. We worked in silence for a while, the roses gradually taking shape under our hands. Clean breaks, fresh starts, room to grow. Edgar called, she said finally, wanted money. And? I told him no. For the first time ever, I just said no. I nodded, trimming another branch. Good. Will you tell me about her? Mom asked. About the grandmother I didn't see. I looked at the guest house, my house, with its warm lights and solid walls. The home Grandma had created, that I'd protected, that stood as testament to both our strengths. Yes, I said, but first you need to learn about roses, how they grow stronger after every pruning, how they survive winter, how they bloom again if you're brave enough to cut away the dead parts. Mum smiled slightly, understanding. I'm ready to learn. The wind chime rang again, clearer this time, like laughter, like forgiveness, like the sound of truth finally breaking free. They wanted me gone. Now they're the ones who left. Funny how justice doesn't always come with applause, but it always comes.